My cousin and my husband are together. You think no one will notice? I stood at the kitchen door. The light stretched her shadow into two figures. My husband flipped through the live game on the sofa, but kept glancing at the back of her hand. She put the cup back in the sink, smiling like it was a performance, saying, "Don't be so nervous." I clenched the note in my hand until it turned white. My nails dug into my palm. For months their intimacy pricked daily life like needles. She casually took my favorite tea in front of me. The garage door opening at midnight became a new schedule. I memorized that day as numbers. Friends jokingly asked at a gathering, "Why has your husband been so busy lately?" I smiled and replied, but wrote down every word. "You're overthinking again," he said, his tone impatient. I wrote that down in my notebook. Late at night, I recovered deleted messages, each line full of their deliberate negligence. I went to a lawyer. The first time I said only, "I want the facts to speak for themselves." The lawyer typed keywords in his notebook. Custody evidence, legal procedure. I started attending night school to learn contract law and rules of evidence. During the day, I was a mother. At night, a collector of proof. I matched their meeting times with my schedule, forming a clear timeline. In one voice message, she said, "Don't tell her." I backed up that recording to 3 hard drives. The first step of revenge was orderly exposure of information. On Friday, I invited them and a few of his colleagues for dinner. Candlelight flickered on the table. I placed a USB drive on the corner like a ticking bomb. He raised his glass, laughing, unaware of the anonymous emails arriving on his phone. When the first email was opened, his smile froze like plastic. Colleagues whispered quietly. File names showing financial exchanges appeared on the screen. "This couldn't have been me," he stammered, panic hiding behind his words. I sipped tea. The cup hitting the table sounded like a drum in the quiet dining room. One partner whispered in my ear, "These numbers need verification." His gaze shifted from respect to suspicion. The next day, the board received my anonymous accounting report and timeline. The meeting froze instantly. He faced questioning. His fingers trembled over the documents. Even his initial prepared defense lost all force. I mailed part of the organized materials to her parents. The envelope contained printed chat screenshots and photos. The village phones rang all night. Her father repeatedly asked, "Is this true?" She cried on the phone. I didn't mean to. Her words scattered like paper in the wind. I replied with a calm letter, listing only times, places, and witnesses. No emotions. When the letter arrived, her parents' lives stirred like dust. Neighbors began to talk behind their backs. In the second stage, I sent evidence in batches to his close friends, letting doubt spread among their circle. Text messages were screenshotted and forwarded at night. He stopped receiving invitations. Seats at gatherings were quietly left empty. Partners proposed suspending contracts during routine audits, citing need for further verification. For the first time, he was publicly ignored. His calls filled with reluctant apologies. I received a text at 3 a.m. "Please don't make this bigger." I screenshot that message. Law became the tool to fix the consequences. The lawyer and I prepared custody and financial support litigation materials. The day the court filed the case, I didn't cry. I handed the evidence to the clerk, hearing the case number read aloud. The petition clearly listed child support amounts and payment schedule, along with breach penalties. I wasn't trying to make them poor. I wanted responsibility to carry the weight of law. Every future payment written into enforceable documents. At a village gathering, her mother was bluntly asked, "What kind of trouble did your daughter bring back?" She stood in the yard crying. "We were kept in the dark too," she said. Her father covered his face, speechless. I forwarded her plea videos to her parents and familiar villagers, letting truth break the silence. She sent a voice message. "Please let me go, okay?" Urgent and desperate. I saved it in the case file. Her parents came to my door to beg. I let them sit in the living room. The timeline spread across the table, relentless. He trembled in front of the lawyer explaining the missing funds. His voice weak and drained. "Can you give me a chance?" he pleaded. His words rushed like he wanted to escape. Board members looked at each other. Allies turned into judges. The room felt icy. I printed that night's recordings and emails, handing page by page to him. His voice fragmented. He begged me quietly, fear and resentment in his words. She was socially ostracized in the village. Even friends who once listened to her cry kept distance. "How could you do this to your sister?" one friend asked in the street. She turned away, unable to respond. She sent me a message, asking me to drop the lawsuit. "I will leave this city," she said. I replied with conditions. "Take legal responsibility and publicly apologize." She responded, "I will." But I knew apology wouldn't erase the wounds. I let law and society's sanctions be unavoidable reality. The moment I was most satisfied was not their cries, but when he trembled submitting explanations to the board. Not angry, just helpless. Fear and shame in his eyes. He bowed before everyone, begging me to drop the case. I preserved his plea as evidence. Legal procedures continued. Contracts suspended. Partners demanded reassessment. Her family faced village gossip. The child's name became taboo. Their hands shook when scrolling phones at night. "Sorry" appeared more frequently. I didn't publicly humiliate them. I released the facts at key moments. Reality enacted revenge for me. When accounts were frozen, contracts paused. Friends gradually distanced themselves. Only then did they feel the consequences. I secured my child's custody, entrusted to reliable relatives, set up an education fund, monthly payment records filed, all key evidence locked in a folder. Closing the drawer represented an end, not forgetting. At night, I sat by the window. Moonlight split shadows in two. I wrote 3 things for the future on paper. In the morning, I folded the paper with travel, study, child's future. Placed it in my suitcase. The world outside awaited. They would bow their heads in the city corners. Hear familiar accusations at village dusk. I knew these tremors wouldn't erase the wounds, but they would teach the perpetrators to bear the cost. I didn't need their pain amplified to bring me pleasure. I wanted the echo of truth and the enforcement of law. I closed the door, calm, armed with new tools, walking toward a future where my child could live with stability and dignity.